Good afternoon. I am Ann Sayas, Chair of the People Program Archives Committee. 2025 has been a year of celebration of our 50th anniversary for People Program. This is our mission statement. People Program is a nonprofit that fosters lifelong learning and encourages personal connections in a vibrant community for seniors by providing opportunities to stay active, share wisdom, and participate in a wide range of intellectual, artistic, and health-related classes. During Katrina, we lost most of our records. The original location of People Program was Marabou, the provincial house of the Congregation of Sisters of St. Joseph, and it was destroyed. Today, the 2nd of January 2025, the first two directors of the program, Barbara McCurdy and Mary Catherine Lombard, will share memories of the past 30 years. They'll talk about the founding of the program and how it got started and who was involved in the early things. They'll talk about that horrible subject, but necessary subject of how do we finance such a wonderful program. And then they will share a lot of highlights and their philosophy of why the program should continue. And now let's start some of those memories. Barbara, we'll start out with you. Could you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Sure, because I'm the oldest. I just made 80, and I'm excited. I love being 80 because I met the most wonderful 80-year-olds at People Program. I'll never forget them. To this day, it's my favorite place in my head, in my heart, because I met people who did what they wanted to do their whole life, and that's what People Program is all about. And what specifically would you like to know? What
Are you a native New Orleanian?
I am.
But you went to school in Baton Rouge?
My father was moved to Baton Rouge with his job, and I went to St. Joseph Academy, which was taught by the Sisters of St. Joseph. And I have great admiration then and now for those sisters, because they are the ones that encouraged us to start People Program. You know, and we thought for the name of it for a long time. We thought, well, hey, it's about people, and that's what it's about, so we're going to call it the People Program. And we called it that, and when we first started in 1973, some people say 74, but that's when we were beginning to get it all together in 73, the fall of 73.
Okay, we'll get into those details in just a moment. Mary Catherine, would you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm a transplant, not native New Orleanian, but call it home because I've lived here longer than anywhere else, I think, to this point. And when I came to New Orleans, I kind of stumbled upon People Program when I was studying to be getting my degree in counseling. Did an internship there at the recommendation of my professor, who said, I had taken a class in geriatrics, and he said, you would like People Program. So I went there and did an internship, and so that's how I found People Program. But I arrived in New Orleans to live like in 1987, 86, and began with the program in the early 90s. And then we'll talk about that, the directors and all that, in 1995, excuse me. I just wrote the first time ever, 2025, a minute ago, so I don't know what year we are. But anyway, so I'm not a native New Orleanian, but People Program was my longtime and favorite job.
Okay, let's go back now to that founding moment. How did People Program start?
Well, it began with an idea by Sister Alice Murray, one of the St. Joseph nuns who I adored, and she taught me at Baton Rouge, my Baton Rouge high school. And I admired her so greatly. And she called me into her office one day, which I was happy to go. And she said, Barbara, I have an idea for a program for you all. And she told me that she had witnessed a program up in Wisconsin.
I forgot the name of that place, but
I
yeah.
don't know, I don't
couldn't
remember what they
remember.
called it. But anyway, the idea was simple. People over 55 would choose a class. We would be responsible of finding a class or creating a class or finding the teachers. So I said, that sounds great. Let's do it. And she said, we'd also like to be able to ask the Sisters of St. Joseph to join if they would like, because we have an issue with retired nuns who need stuff to do, and interesting things to do. So
Now, the story has been told that she saw her retired nuns sitting around watching soap operas on TV, and that she thought that they needed a more profitable occupation of their time. Is that just a myth?
that is true, and she did say that.
Did she?
And I,
Yes.
of course, agreed with her, not understanding what retirement meant until now when I turned 80. Right, so I'm trying to find the perfect thing for me. But anyway, I knew that was a great idea, and the fact that she had proposed it was even more so great for me. And so we started, and then we said, well, how do we start? Is that something you want to know about?
Sure.
Okay, well, that was curious. How do you start a program like that? So we took the closest thing that we knew. We had a lot of older people, and it was at the church nearby called St. Francis Cabrini. So I went over and I talked to the priest there and said, would you be interested in helping us get started with this? So we put a little thing together and said we were having this program over at Mirabeau, which was just a few blocks away from the church. And sure enough, we asked for teachers. We got 5 teachers right from that one meeting. And we had a art teacher. What did we have now? It's been a long time since. We had an art teacher. We had a decoupage, which was a thing then.
Yes.
It was a
There was a lot of handcraft things at that time, like crochet or needlepoint.
right, crochet,
that
I
kind of
think we
stuff.
had. And then we had French. Mary Catherine, we should have been there teaching it. French class, we had a Spanish class, and we had an art class. And sure enough, we filled those classes up by that fall. And I knew, okay, this is good.
How did you find students interested? Did they just show up, or did you have an advertising campaign?
No, the advertising was at the church, and that was it. But we started out, I think the first year we had like 300 people
Wow.
just in those 5 classes. So it took off like crazy.
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth, exactly, word of mouth. I still believe in word of mouth.
Oh, yes.
Definitely. People in the people program tell somebody they know, and then that person comes, and that's how it goes. And that's how we find teachers too. So once they come and they see what's going on, that starts it. So that's the beginning of people program, which I'm so proud of and so happy with, and I love it now even more that I'm retired from it. So, not that I like retirement, I really don't. I would start people program all over again if I could find another place. So if anybody hears that and is interested, let me know.
Tell me a little bit about Alice Marie.
Oh, Sister Alice Marie, she was a force to reckon with. She was. And I say that in a good way because she was involved in anything that was. So her concept of spirituality was real. I mean, she was involved in protests. She was involved in anything that was considered a good thing. And I considered her always, if I wanted to know what was the right stance to take on a subject,
get
I
her
would ask
opinion.
her, get her opinion on it. And sure enough, she was. She would give me some great tips. So I love her to this day, even though she has passed away.
Right.
You knew her too, Mary Catherine?
Yeah, I bumped into her at an anti-war protest, actually.
At a what?
A protest one day. I'm like, oh, there's my Sisters of St. Joseph. Yeah, she was there.
And that was
A peaceful
not,
protest. It was for peace.
She was what?
It was a protest for peace. She was
For
there.
peace.
I thought it was beautiful.
Was that here in New Orleans?
Yeah, it was during the Iraq stuff. It was a long time ago. But it kind of was an eye-opener to me to think, wow, okay, I didn't know
Yeah.
that there would be activists like that.
When she went to the plantation, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, yeah.
She used to go to the plantation.
Oh, yeah. And one of the things she did, talk about put your life on the line, at that point, she was so interested in the slavery that was still going on in Lafayette area. And she and another nun with her, Francine, Sister Francine, went to Lafayette and moved there. They lived there, and they took their life in their own hands by they were going to the plantations and trying to get the people on the plantations to get educated, first of all, with English. And they did that, and then helped to have people to find houses because their housing was so poor on the plantation.
Yeah.
So she did that. I mean, that was just putting yourself on the line.
Right.
It's
Because
not-
they received death threats.
Yes, they would see.
Certainly.
Oh, they did receive. She and Sister Francine received death threats?
Yeah, we have a picture of her on our website with her in the shadows of the oaks teaching some African Americans there.
Okay.
Yes, she was, put her money where her mouth was.
Yeah, she walked the talk.
She walked the talk for sure. So that's how the People program started, really. And we just jumped in there. We put the word out for these 5 classes that we were going to have, and they filled up. And the sisters were very cooperative in giving us rooms to have
And more rooms.
and more rooms every year when we added classes. So that's how really People program started, and how it grew by word of mouth, by the people in it would tell us what they wanted to do.
Who were the students who came to seek what People program offered? How would you be able to describe them? How diverse were they?
Oh, very diverse people. They were interested in learning, and that's what we were interested in helping them do. So we were frantically looking for teachers at the time, and we were able, unbelievably, from the people who came to the first classes, find other teachers. So I remember we were able to find the decoupage teachers from that group, and French teachers and Spanish teachers, and people loved it. And they came with their ideas of what they wanted to do.
Did husbands and wives come together? Or?
Sometimes husbands and wives would come together, but mostly it was women. And I loved the fact that they were able to talk to each other. I remember a particular class, crochet, seeing a woman talking about how when she lost her first husband, how it was for her. And a teacher is saying, here's my phone number, call me.
This is before we knew what networking was, but they had their own network. Yeah.
Yes, so they would share, automatically, hey, you come and talk to me, because I can tell you a lot about that.
Now, this was during the 70s, and there were still tense times around segregation. Did African Americans join the program?
Not at first. No, not at first. But we tried to make sure that we found some Black African American people and introduced them to the program. And when we did that, we did start seeing African Americans who came.
Again, that word of mouth.
Yes.
Word of mouth again.
Yes. And I will have to say, when I came aboard in the early 90s, and then I became the program director, and we divided the directorship to development program, which we'll probably get into in a few minutes. But at that point, in the mid-90s, we had a big influx of not just African Americans, but Hispanic people from the community. It was word of mouth, and mostly from churches, people would tell people. But I think what was really gratifying to me, and people would, they were very vocal to tell you that everybody felt accepted. It didn't matter if you had your GED or your PhD, or if you lived on St. Charles or the Ninth Ward. It didn't matter where you were from, and so people had classes together. They became friends. They became a support system. And for me, that was probably the most gratifying thing that I saw, was seeing people bridge a gap that they never would have been able to do before in any other context, because it just didn't happen. People didn't live in the same circles. And to me, that was really, really, really fantastic.
Yeah, that is one of the reasons why I joined People Program, because of the diversity of the people there. I had taught at Southern University in Baton Rouge for 5 years and had many African American friends. And if I didn't have people of color that I could be friends with, it just wasn't a perfect world for me. So, but People Program had a wonderful mixture of people from all backgrounds.
To me, that was the most special thing. If I say what's the legacy that it gave, it's that from my perspective, because I really saw it, and people appreciated it.
I think they still do. I think
sure they do.
That's one of the strengths, I think, of the program, because we now have, of course, Spanish heritage people, Vietnamese,
Yes.
and different religions and different ethnic backgrounds. It's just a wonderful mixture, and produces the best conversation.
Yes, it
Absolutely,
does. Yes.
absolutely true.
Opens eyes and opens doors.
Good, true.
How was it for you, Mary Catherine, to take over a program that was already established?
I often think to my interview back in 1994. Yes, January 1994, when I had the interview for the position, that I was with Sister Ann and I forget who else. It's just, I don't remember who it was. Sister Barbara, maybe? I don't know. But anyway, when they asked me, so what are you always the classic questions, what's your 5 or your 10-year plan to improve the program? I'm like, improve it? I mean, it's like trying to improve, the best, I don't know, the best donut or the best king cake. I mean, how can you improve it? And I'm like, I thought this is how I was going to lose not ever getting hired, because I thought, oh my goodness, I don't want to improve it. I just want to maintain it. I just want it to stay like it is. I remember that. So taking over to me was
It's work.
was a privilege and an honor. And big feet, I kept saying, oh my goodness, I have to follow in Barbara's footsteps. But she was right beside me. We just kind of split the duties, where she could focus on bringing the money and I could focus on the day-to-day. So as I was saying, that when Barbara and I split the directors into two parts, because Joyce Dassey and Eloise Adams were there, and all of the other support staff, like Dorothy and Sister Ann Claire,
Right.
and
One of the nuns.
and Albert and those people that were there to help us with all the maintenance. It really was easy. I mean, it was a super easy job to walk into, because it ran already like a Swiss clock. So, and as everybody always said, and it was the truth, if truth be told, Joyce ran the place. We'd walk in and say, tell me what to do, Joyce, and she'd tell you what to do. And so it was easy. It was a really easy transition, but I absolutely loved it. It was never a day you didn't want to get up and go to work, because it was so fun and so many wonderful people, and so rewarding. It was the best job I've ever had. I always say it was my best job. The 13 years I was there, you couldn't get better than that. Now,
you mentioned one thing that we need to talk about a little bit more. fully, and that is how the program is financed. You started out with what kind of fees?
Well, the fee we had was $5
In the beginning.
when we first started, and then, it grew exponentially.
When I came on, it was $75 per semester,
And that's because the board thought we needed more money,
and we did.
and we did need more money. But the way we got money was two ways. One, here in New Orleans, they had bingo.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And
That's true.
even though I hate the idea of bingo for older people,
It worked.
we decided to run a bingo at one of the bingo halls. And they welcomed that in the city. So different charities would run a bingo. And we did run a bingo every Tuesday. And we got volunteers from the program to go there. And I was the caller. So I totally gave up that concept that I didn't want to do it because it wasn't for our people. It was for people who showed up at these bingo halls. And we were able to earn at least $1,000 a week.
Wow.
Yes, at bingo.
Yeah.
So it was there for the taking, and we took it.
Yeah.
And the people who were doing the volunteer work understood what it was about, that it was for other people, not them. We weren't trying to get our people to come to bingo. So what we were doing was getting volunteers. So that's how we did the first, and the other way we made money was something we had been doing right from the get-go. But I saw where people that ran cruises and other big
Tours, organized tours.
organized tours. I decided, well, why can't we do that? So I called the first one I called, I think, was
The cruise.
the cruises.
Was the cruise to either Hawaii or Alaska or something like that?
Yeah, it was Alaska. And sure enough, we found out that all we needed to do was bring at least 15 people on the cruise, and we would get no charge from the cruise company.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. So we would make money off of that. And I was very upfront with the people that this was going to be a people program fundraiser.
Now, how did you make money?
The
Did you
commission.
get
The
you
The
get a
commission. We
commission?
would make the commission just like a
travel agent.
travel agent would. So we made the commission off of the, so like if, say, for example, we would make good money off of it.
Yeah, we
I
did.
remember, what did we make?
We'd make a lot of money. I mean, because the commission, say the trip, depending on what it was, a 7-day cruise, they'd give us the commission times, and we didn't have 15 people. We would have 50 people. So it was a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
So we would always be maxed out, really.
The one to Alaska, we had 80 people.
I know, but you could because it was a bus, it was a boat. But the one we took to France, both times were sellout. We had 52 people on a 55-passenger bus. So we earned the commission instead of the travel agent. And they didn't care who was selling it as long as someone was selling it. So that was brilliant. That Barbara thought, well, like you say, if you don't know, if you don't ask. And so she asked, and they said, okay. I don't know how it would work today because travel agents are kind of it's not the same anymore. But yeah, and that was something, a big trip every year and several smaller ones. A big trip, like somewhere, far away trip.
And then I would offer
How many of the students participated in those trips?
well, anywhere from, 20 people to 80 people.
Yeah.
So a great percentage of
Yes.
the students at People Program would participate in these trips.
Right.
It was expensive, so you had to be able to, to afford it. But some people would save up because they would pay deposits all along. They said, "Cause this year you're going to do that," so they would make that their trip. They'd invite their siblings, their children sometimes, their spouses. So it would be, other people besides the program. My parents went on one.
So they did pay regular fees, or were they able to get a discounted fees because of the number?
Occasionally it might have been
Might have been,
discounted.
but I don't remember really.
It was not always promised to be
Yeah.
discounted, but
No.
they were happy to
But they
pay.
pay. It'd be the same It'd be the same price they pay to travel with anybody else.
Right.
But they were helping to fund their program, so people really liked it.
Yes. And so how did you get involved with Elder Hostel?
Oh, that's another story. So that,
The third prong of the fundraising, though.
yeah, that's
I mean,
true.
From
I forgot
fees,
about
of course,
that.
then bingo, trips, and Elder Hostel.
Oh yeah. Well, when I did realize I could do other things besides, so Elder Hostel, we made a profit on that.
Oh yeah.
Elder Hostel's an international program, and I didn't even know about it for seniors. And when I found about it, I went, "Wow, this is just like what we're doing, only this is around the world." So I got in touch with them, and sure enough, they didn't have any programs in New Orleans.
Oh.
I went, "Well, you can't do all these programs and nothing in New Orleans." They were like, "No, I know we can't, so we want to do that. Can you do a program in New Orleans?" And I'm thinking, yes, I can. I would love to do that because I'm a big New Orleans fanatic, and I loved it. So we set up a program where they would do for the international program, which people were coming from all over the country here to New Orleans to do this, and that we would take them to all the usual New Orleans places, plus the fact that we would have. We would go to the World War II Museum. We would take them to around the city. We'd show them the different parts of the city, the different people that lived in those parts, whatever. So it was exciting to me to share the city of New Orleans with people from all over the country, and most of them that came had never been here.
Right.
So that was a wonderful, good making money. I wish I had done that earlier.
Now, were you getting commissions for People Program doing that?
Oh, absolutely.
People Program was like the sponsoring organization, if you will, for Elder Hostel, because it has to have a
In New
sponsor. Like
Orleans.
usually it's university,
Yeah.
usually it sponsors it or something. It was People Program was the sponsor. So for each registrant, each participant, there was a part of some fee that went into the program, and
Right.
that also was when I came on. It's what made my job so easy because Barbara just moved out of it because she was burning her candle at both ends trying to run the day-to-day and the financing. So she went to just do the Elder Hostel and was able to really develop that Elder Hostel programs and expand. And that money was what came into us to make us not to have to seek grants and
Or play bingo.
or play bingo. Thank you. So it was able to sustain us very comfortably for a long time until
That's true.
Katrina, basically.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
So for several years, 10 years at least or more.
Do you think it might work today? Is it? It's some time away from 9/11.
I don't know.
Hopefully it would. And I would be happy to be in the middle of it if it would help.
The program.
Because if it would help the program, yes.
Now, I know you had people from Switzerland come to visit the program.
Yeah.
I saw that in one of the old newsletters. Was that through Elder Hostel or another idea?
And that was just through accident, honestly. I got a phone call one day from a lady who was from Switzerland, and she said, "I have a group of people who would love to come to New Orleans. Can you teach them something?" I said, "Well, what would you like to learn?" "Well, we'd like to learn English, which we try to learn here in Switzerland. But can you do that?" And of course I said yes, and then figured it out. So what happened is we incorporated them into some of our programs, and they loved them. And they particularly, we had people come in and teach them English, and they loved that. And it was a great experience for me and for them.
I think so, yes.
And it was just happenstance.
How long did they stay?
They stayed about a month.
Did they stay at Mirabeau or somewhere
Yes,
else?
they did stay
Yeah,
at Mirabeau.
They did. And when they left, actually, I'm just thinking, I've completely forgotten. One couple stayed even longer, and they stayed with me at my house.
At your house.
I just remember that now.
And that would have been, and that
I forgot
still,
about that.
That even still would be
Yeah.
a possibility. Like I'll get Mary Catherine.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, France! We're going to do France, and Mary Catherine's going to do it.
Ah,
But it brings up a really good point though about that, because they said, could you do the program? The way the program went from 5 classes to when I was there, we had like 105 or 10 classes at the peak. That when I was there, I'm sure it was probably higher at one point,
Oh,
lower.
yeah.
I don't, but this was when I was there in the around whenever before the storm, and people would come and ask for a class or say, gee, I really would like to learn Italian, so you'd get an Italian class, or, or I'd like to study this kind of literature, so we get somebody to do it. But the thing that Barbara and I always would say, and it's not a joke, it's that we would say we need a teacher. Like I remember in the early 2000s, we wanted to teach computers to seniors because that was a very novel, unexploited idea.
That's right.
And so I'm sitting there thinking, where on earth am I going to find a volunteer with the patience to come here and set up a computer lab and to teach our people? And I mean, I'm not even kidding. I don't think it was 24 hours later, if we had this discussion, some new man walked in who was retiring from teaching computer science at Delgado and said, I forget it, Ray something, hi, I'd like to volunteer. And I said, what? Did somebody call you? And he said, no. I'm like, did you get a divine something in your dreams last night? He says, no. I said, my goodness, yes, we need you. And so he then got old computers from UNO and Delgado. He pieced them all together, set up our entire lab, and taught classes for years. And that was just an example of but that was a big one, because that was a huge expansion to our technology. We had computers, and we had various people. I would recruit anybody. My husband taught at one point. A good friend of mine taught at one point. We were recruiting anybody we could to teach computers. But every time we had a need, it just came.
That is true.
okay, express that need. I want a class in podcasts.
There you go.
Podcast. That's
You
a great
could do
one.
that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, because it's very popular now. So,
Absolutely.
and also a way we can reach shut-ins.
Absolutely.
They could, listen in somehow
That would be great.
rather than leave the program if they're ill. Yes, we have Zoom classes now.
do
A
see
lot of
that.
Zoom classes that we are experimenting with more technology.
That's good.
That's
And
very
you did that,
brave.
of course, during the
Yes, the
Pandemic.
pandemic. It saved
Yeah.
me during the pandemic, and I'm now Zoom addicted. I have 2 Zooms, one tomorrow and then one Monday for a
Okay.
new class that I'm taking on the expansion of mysticism from Egypt through the Celtic Christianity.
Goodness me, that's very specific.
It's connected to Mary Magdalene.
Okay, okay.
Okay, any other thoughts about your financial situation? When did the gala start? Did that start
Oh
during
yeah,
your
that started
tenure?
right,
a long time
right.
ago.
Yeah, we used to do a boutique.
Okay.
Christmas,
Yeah,
the boutique.
I made a note about that. Christmas boutique was a big fundraiser,
Christmas boutique was a big fundraiser
especially early on. Kind of went away at the end, but in the beginning,
because everybody was doing Christmas boutiques. We wanted
it was
to be
huge. So and yeah, so
But
the-
you had a lot of handicrafts.
Yeah.
Yes.
And people would, that was their objective, is to
Right.
make this for the boutique, and so they would just make a lot of stuff
Yeah,
and sell it, and that was a big thing in like into November or something.
and it would last like 3 days. We would serve lunch
The whole community would
and
come.
sell what we would sell lunch. Yeah, so everybody would come.
Yeah,
And-
we're still doing that.
You're still doing that?
We do a fall festival,
Okay.
There you
and
go.
West Bank does something comparable to that as
Okay.
well.
That's
Right.
right.
And I think we earn about $8,000 or $9,000.
Oh, that's grand.
Oh
that.
yeah, that's very good.
That's good.
Yeah, and we used to, since we had so many people making things, we would make about 20,000.
Ooh,
So there's a lot of ways to make money, but it takes the people there to commit to it.
Well, it also takes the creativity to come up with the idea, and that's what I always would credit Barbara with, was having the ideas. She would have these ideas, and we do the work. No, she did a lot of work. She did most of the work.
I wasn't good with handicrafts.
But she would come with these wonderful ideas, and I'm like, gosh, that's great, you know. And then it would work, and everybody would get on board. But you got to be, you know, that creative kind of don't take no for an answer, and anything's possible, and adapt. I think another thing that People Program, why it survived, because honestly, in 2005, when Katrina took the campus, it was on the brink of not surviving.
Oh yeah.
And it survived. So it's very resilient. People are resilient that are participate and work there and worked there in the past, to just say, no, this is. I always would say the program's not people. It's a bigger thing. It's like one thing that has us all together, but it had a life of its own. You know, it had a life of its own that would live no matter what happened to the rest of us. But there in 2005, 2006, it was like, I don't know. But
Well, because the building was gone.
Right.
Right.
All right. Since we were started on the Katrina issues, let's talk about Katrina. Where did you weather Katrina? Were you still in New Orleans, or did you leave?
No, we stayed in New Orleans.
did,
Yes, and credit Mary Catherine a lot, because she was out there looking for places to go.
Camp.
Camp,
Something, yeah.
and even temporarily. So we were able to find, she was able to find it.
Well, first we were at the Methodist Church on Canal and Jeff Davis, whatever it's called now.
Grace.
Yes, Grace Methodist, yeah. And then we found the Methodist in Metairie. That was a brief thing, and then we found the West Bank. Mm-hmm. We already had the West Bank before that. The West Bank, that's what we
West
had.
Bank
was right before.
Just
Thank goodness.
Just before, right.
Because I remember I evacuated to Florida where my parents live, and I was there for the whole fall until I moved back here in January after the storms. My son had to go to school in Florida. And I remember Father Roy called me one day. Father Roy, God love him. His phone calls, you know, if you ever talked to him on the phone, he just yells really a lot, and he's putting it down. We said, "Okay, goodbye," boom, and he's like, you hear him saying goodbye, and he puts the thing down. It was so funny. But one day he called me. He says, "I got a proposition for you." And I said, "What, Father Roy?" "I think it's time for the tail to wag the dog." And I'm like, "What?" We're gonna let the West Bank open. The West Bank's ready to open. We're cleaning it up, and you can start your classes there. Because we were looking for what are we going to do, you know, and so that really was, with it. I think that was just wonderful that we had that option before the storm came. But I wasn't here, but I would come all the time, you know, all the time, and we'd work and try to find places, and then I found the current Lakeshore place. I went back to the sisters. I think it was Sister Carolyn, and said, "What about this? You know, looks like a good place." And that's how that came about. It wasn't purchased before I left, but it was.
You talked about the present
Lakeside place.
place.
Yeah. The present location, the main campus, but also the thing that I think, and that's when you could feel that there was a soul of the program that was bigger than, it was all of us, but it was bigger than all of us, and it was going to survive, and it did, because everybody worked beyond beyond the odds to recreate it and to make sure it opened again, and we did. It was.
So you paid you paid
scratchy.
your dues.
It was great. It was kind of, you know, we did the best we could, what we had, and we opened several campuses. We were like running around, had 3 different places at one point after Katrina, yeah. But then it stayed, you know, and hired some more people, and that's when Jan came, and Jan came when I left, yeah. Anyway, so yeah.
Were you able to contact the students, or were they too far dispersed?
That was hard because this was the beginning of internet, right? So,
That was very hard.
So we had emails, so we sent like a group thing out to people saying, and if we had any contact from their children, have you seen your parents? Where are they? You know. So we'd hear back from a few people, not many. Some people would just show up, but I think
We were back to word of mouth again.
back to word of
We're
mouth.
back.
You know, tell us. And so we actually had a list. That was Joyce's thing to mark when we had found people. You know, but so many people lived around. The location was great, being right there where it was,
Mirabeau.
Gentilly. Yeah. So we so many of our people lived there, which was really hit hard by the floods.
Yes.
So I remember every week or every couple of days, I would ride around to houses where people were to kind of check on them, and that was horrible. I mean, I don't really want to think about it or talk about it because you'd see what was written on their doors. But we did look for people literally. I went literally to their houses looking for people at one point, and
To let them know that we're back in business.
and to know if they were, alive.
About how long did it take for you to get back in business? Okay, Katrina was in August.
We were back. We were back opening in January.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, we started. We probably didn't start classes till probably February or something. But we were on the West Bank right away. We made an office, and we got computers, we got phones, we got everything we needed. Because we lost, like you say, all the records. Everything was gone at Mirabeau. So.
And Joyce, who you already mentioned, was the soul of our program too. Her house was destroyed, so she was not even had a place to live. So she had to move and everything else. Like
my house was destroyed too.
And yours too.
Where was your house?
I'm mid-city, right by City Park, but in a place that doesn't flood, but my house did.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So anyway, but it's okay because we all survived it. But that was a real turning point because that's when the program was on the brink. Is it going to make it or not? And it
You
did.
mean right before Katrina?
After when Katrina hit, then we weren't sure of the future.
I remember I was in Baton Rouge and I heard that Mirabeau was destroyed, so I knew this was our spot. And and what we were going to do. So that's when we were really scrambling,
And everybody was scrambling.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course, everybody was.
Yeah, everybody was
But
scrambling.
now we're all back to normal.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I was thinking as you mentioned the highlights of the program, one of the, besides the people and the staff and just was the location. The campus to me was a super highlight of the program because it was 10,000 square feet, all on one level. That terrazzo, wonderful tile floor that you could just mop it up and it always looked clean. And if we needed to refigure some walls, the sisters would help us, move walls to make rooms different. And we had a great kitchen and we had so much and parking. Big rooms.
Big classes.
The campus was fantastic. And that's the thing that I think was the most difficult for us who were there before to adjust to after, to have to adjust to smaller space.
But that location seemed to me to help engender the whole spirit of People Program.
Yes.
Because you were able also to go outside, were you
Yes, it was
not?
beautiful.
And have activities outside.
Yes.
We did. We always
And
had
then you
Picnics,
you had
crawfish
a
boils.
portable building
Yes.
that became a family activity during the weekend.
Yes.
Am I right?
I think some people went there on the weekends, didn't they? I don't remember exactly.
They had to
play
work,
games
they
or
had to
something.
work for the boutique.
That was
So
it.
even if the program wasn't open.
That's right. They go out there to work on boutique things. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was just a real, the space to me was fantastic. The solidarity amongst the members and the staff. And I come back to the staff because the staff was so loyal. It was the same people were there forever. Nobody ever quit. Or I say that and then I left. But I was there for 13 years and
Yeah,
I
but
moved
you
out of the
had to.
country. But it was just the loyalty.
That's when we should have moved People Program to France.
We can still do that.
We'd have come from full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the sisters started in France.
Right, in the Puy.
And that was the
Exactly.
sisters. That was when you say also. You said what's the sisters' contribution to me? Again, it was this. It was that space that they graciously gave to the program. And I remember taking more and more space.
Yeah.
And transforming spaces as we need and maintaining them. The air conditioners out, the windows not working, whatever. And they would just be right on it and get it fixed. And so the whole maintenance it was an easy place to. I could really focus on the people. you know, and this one was making the money and she was putting it in my checking account and Joyce was writing the checks, and I'm like, okay, this is a good gig, because it works so well. Everybody working together.
And you should move me to France. Well, I'm glad that you felt that way, Mary Catherine.
Oh, the
and we
that
all-
was the space was just it.
The
And
space
the
was
other thing
beautiful.
I thought, what's the sisters for me, the thing that I really appreciated was their confidence, their belief in us, you know, their faith that what we were going to do was good, was right, was what people needed. You know, even if sometimes the classes might have been really out there, you know, like some of them. I remember the Baptist preacher who came and taught reincarnation, and I'm like, don't know about this. So,
Oh, I would have loved that.
well, people did, but I
Yes.
wasn't sure. I thought I might get my, you know, whatever the slip you get when they're asking you to leave. I'm like, I don't know. So I asked Joyce. She goes, oh, it's okay. And then I think I did run it by one of the sisters.
Think and share a little bit more about the contribution you feel that the sisters made to the development of the program. They contributed some financially, and they contributed some from the use of the facilities. But what of the spiritual side have they given to the program?
I'll let you answer, so you were there longer than me.
Well, I'll answer it this way. I think their presence, their very presence, and they were extremely supportive, as Mary Catherine said, and they weren't
And trusting.
And trusting.
That's
yes.
what I just thought was fantastic.
They didn't really tell me what to do and what not to do, which was good. I like that because I like doing it my way.
The creative side of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like doing it with the people because that's, Mary Catherine can vouch for that. The people would bring the ideas and we would jump on them and say, yes, that's going to work. And it would. My favorite example of that, I'll repeat, because I kept having people asking me if we could have a ballet class.
Oh, good.
And I was like, ballet? Because they were in their 80s. And I thought, why not? And so we found a ballet teacher who stayed, I think, maybe until recently.
Probably.
Yeah. That was golly, I don't know when that was. Maybe in
90 maybe?
Yeah.
It could have been before I got there, but I know it was
That's
already
true.
going on when I got there.
So, I, as I did, and I believe it still, that if you're in charge of something, you should see what's going on all the time. So I used to roam the building, and Mary Catherine did that too. And that's people would ask me for certain classes, and I'd know what was going on, and I'd like, okay, ballet. I don't know any ballet teachers. It turns out there was one in our program that I didn't know. That was Barbara St. Romain.
Right.
And I asked her if she would teach ballet, and she said yes.
And she was still working too, remember?
Is she still working?
She worked around her schedule to come and teach.
Oh, great. So anyway, I told the people what got me excited really was not that they wanted that, but that we would provide it. And I walked into the class one day and said, oh, look at you all. You're amazing. You're beautiful. And I was sincere as all get out because they were doing their ballet. And they were excited. So one lady follows me out and she goes, Barbara, I don't know if I'm beautiful, but I feel beautiful. And I said, inside myself, I said, yes, this is what it's all about. So people would do things that made them feel beautiful. Golly, this is great. And it wasn't just the ballet, it was piano. I always wanted to play piano. I always wanted to speak French. I always wanted to speak Spanish. What else, Mary Catherine?
Well,
Computer.
Yeah,
I
computer.
wasn't long enough.
I need to be able to email my grandchildren, teach me computer. Yeah. I also, along the lines of ballet, we had belly dancing, and
belly dancing.
And I remember when our Beverly Stadler. I remember when she had she needed 2 knee replacements. Remember that?
yeah.
So for about 2 years, she taught sitting down. She'd sit there and just give them the instructions before her knee replacements and after her knee replacements. And I thought it was the epitome of the program, because she didn't give up, she didn't stop, she kept teaching. And they did belly dancing. And so at the end of each year, we forgot about this, the talent show.
Yeah.
We'd have a big talent show if you still do that. But that was a lot of fun, because everybody would show what they had learned. And we'd also have the art show.
Now, was that held outside?
Nope. It was all in, we had that big fellowship hall kind
Okay.
of activity center place. And so we
Right.
had it there. So we had air conditioning and fans and such, and an audience, and standing room only.
Tell me a little bit more about the talent show.
Oh, well, we had to have the tap dancing group. Mm-hmm. They would put on a performance, incorporating their talent.
Yeah. Everybody would have line dancing, of course,
Line dancing they loved.
and there would be some sort of a exercise thing. I don't know what that Patty would do. I don't know what it was, but it was always to really upbeat music, and they would get in there and do a show. It would go on for at least giggling in the background, at least 2 hours, and and it was great though. Singing, choral group, guitar. We'd have a band. We have a little band over there in the corner to play. We had piano, guitar, singing, chorus.
It still goes on.
And
That's
art.
great. And the
Yeah.
art exhibits.
They show their work.
I think half the art hanging in my house are things I bought at People Program. Very, a bit primitive, but I love them. Yeah.
We have the art show before in the hallway
Okay.
of People Program in both campuses, but then we do have the talent show still, and let's see, there are at least 4, maybe more, different dance groups that have dances. There's the guitar group. There's the violin group.
Oh, violin.
Violin, that's
Yes.
new since I'm there.
Yeah.
Yes, Janine's brother
Oh, okay.
teaches
go.
guitar and violin.
Great.
And poetry.
Oh, poetry.
Poetry.
We do poetry reading as well. At least 4 or 5 of us will read. We have a group called the People Program Poets
Oh, I love it.
that perform in different places.
Oh, wow.
I'll tell you more about that
Yeah.
later.
Well, that's an easy P.
Yes, exactly.
P
The
cubed.
alliteration from that.
Right.
But that still goes on.
Well, we had some
Good.
sort of a acting something. Remember they read, it was just like what would you call it? When you would read a play but around the table and they would act it out. Remember that?
Yes.
They would do some great performances.
Right, that
What's
we
that
don't
called? I
have.
forget what it was a name for it, but
That should be connected to the poetry.
people like that.
That would be a great idea.
I've tried a little bit of that. We now have a class that I'm hoping will lead to some performance. We have a class in improv.
Okay.
Oh, good. Good.
So
That's
I took that, and we'll take it again this semester. And there's several of us that are chomping at the bit. Let's do an improv group. Let's
Yes.
perform.
Absolutely.
Yes, I think
So,
that's great.
That's
We'll get
really-
that going.
So you get
wonderful.
to do that.
Yes.
Well, it's just an open feel.
Anything
So there's
goes.
anything we can do. If it can be done, it will be done.
And sometimes classes, remember we would say, we'll try it. Might only be 2 people, remember?
Yeah,
And-
we'll try it.
They might find a little corner somewhere to have a class, but like, okay, if there's 2 or 3 people that want to do it, try, maybe it'll grow.
Are there any more highlights that you would like to share? Any more wonderful stories?
I don't know. I did write some highlights down, but I don't remember what it was. The trips
The
talked about.
trips, yeah, we went on a lot of really good trips.
Yeah, you also did a lot of local trips,
Yes.
like luncheon
Yes.
Yes.
things. How did you work that?
Well, I'll give you an example. One of the ones that we did, they loved, and I had a following, I guess I should say.
Yeah,
Huh?
groupie.
They didn't know where we were going,
Oh,
but they want to go.
the mystery tour.
That was it.
it.
Ah,
I would do a mystery tour.
Yeah.
and they would want to go wherever it was. So I said, well, no, I opened my mouth for mystery tour. I better think of the mystery. So the mystery that day was I hired a bunch of limousines. Like I had my 30 limousines.
I wasn't there before I got there, but I heard about it.
Was it before? So early on, and then they really wanted to go wherever the mystery was.
Yeah.
So instead of a bus pulling up to get them to go, all these limousines showed up out in the parking lot. Yeah, you could do that. And they were excited, and I was excited to do it. And they were loved. They got in the limousines, off we went. They didn't know where we were going, but I did know.
Luckily.
Luckily, I knew. We were going to the top of the World Trade Center. Yeah.
Heard about this.
So a lot of them got to go. I arranged a nice dinner and everything there. And it was so funny because as we went down Canal Street, there were men taking off their hats and doing like this. They thought we were a funeral. Well, the people got a kick out of that. Okay, Barbara, where are we going? Who died? Nobody died. Okay, so we kept going, and then we had all those experiences along the way.
Now, did the individuals pay for their meals, or
Yes, so I arranged for the meals and the whole thing, really.
were you able to get a group discount then?
Yes.
Yes.
Of course.
They're always happy to do that. And the participants liked it because they would just like pay a fee for a trip or for a lunch or for whatever, and they knew everything was taken care of, you know. So
they didn't have
when they
any-
traveled
Right.
with us, for
No
example,
tips.
all
We
the tips
took
were
care of that.
included. Like on the cruises and
Yeah.
the long trips, like to Canada or to Europe, everything was included. So they knew once they wrote their last payment to us, they were done, and that was a plus.
We would handle the how much they would pay.
the
each.
tour guides,
Yeah.
the step-on guides, all of that.
Yeah, so that was all paid for.
Now, did you do that while there were still classes going on, or during a break time, or what?
It was a break. It was usually in the
Well,
May,
for the,
June.
For the,
A break time?
For the big long ones, yeah.
It was
break.
usually before. I
During
don't know
the
if we,
summer.
when does summer school start?
I don't
I
know.
don't remember.
But we couldn't cover everything.
No, but summer was really short program. But we had those trips were always in May, really, because it was right after we'd close around Mother's Day and reopen for the summer schedule in June, I guess. I don't remember. Summer was very abbreviated, like it probably still is.
And then we'd do some like Lafayette to maybe I found a place that did crawfish, and we would ask them to talk about crawfish and, you know, something local sense of the area. So somewhere like that.
Or sometimes I remember an overnight to like Jackson, Mississippi for a flamenco presentation, international something.
yeah,
So things like that for like ballets or theater that might require, could do it in the day, but sometimes it required one overnight.
Yeah, because you did go to plays and concerts and things, didn't you, as
Yes.
well?
Yes.
Well, see, I think that's an important consideration because so many of us
Transportation.
can't make all of the arrangements ourselves individually, and a group experience
Right.
like that, besides the camaraderie of
Right.
sharing the experience.
Yeah. I think that would be something that should be incorporated at people program. Yeah.
It starts small too for like just day trip things and day like if there's a play in town, because for someone who's a senior to organize getting downtown or getting to wherever they have
Yes.
to be, it's dangerous,
Parking.
it's complicated.
One does not park in the city of
No.
New Orleans
If you have
anymore.
a bus that pulls up and drops someone off, it's a
Picks
a
them up,
grand
picks them
idea.
up at the end.
Yeah.
So they appreciated that a lot. And I do think it would be a good
Good service.
service.
And it could raise a little bit of funds too, probably for the program.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
Because you get a discount.
Yeah.
Definitely does.
Yeah. We're nearing the end of the hour here, and I've got two questions that I have asked in the other interviews that I will ask you. People Program has been tried to be replicated in other places and has not succeeded. What do you think we have uniquely here in this people program that other places cannot replicate?
I'll let you answer that, Mary Kay.
What do we have? I just come back to resilience, to this determination, to the whoever planted that first seed for the program. It's got its own
Sister
life.
Osprey.
Yeah. So it's something's there. She might be gone, but she's still there. So there's something that's just like the root, the center, the seed that I think it's hard to replicate. Because I remember how many people would come in. I forgot all about that. Every year you'd have at least 2 people from other places around the country come and say, could you tell me about your program? And I'd walk them around and show everything to them. And I never got feedback if they were able to replicate or not. I never really followed up. But I don't know what would make it, why, I don't know, except it's so long-lived now. It's got such a reputation.
It's unusual for nonprofits to last 50 years, I found out.
Oh, is it?
Is it? All right. Well, I would like to say for sure, one reason, like when Mary Catherine was there, she kept it going, and her personality and ability to relate to people is important, very important.
Well, something you said earlier, too, that I think was real important, and that might have something to do with the replication of the program, is you were saying that you'd walk around. And remember when I first started there, Barbara told me, don't sit in your office. And not that I would have been like a hermit, but she's like, don't sit in your office, go out and see the people. And I remember, I didn't have to exercise because I walked, that's 10,000 square feet, so much every single day. Go and see the people. And I would go in the classes and talk to people. My door was always open for people just to come and sit down and talk. I'd go have lunch with them in the lunchroom, you know. So that whole interaction, that the director, that the staff is really one of the people, I think is real important. That it's not somebody here that's directing from a theoretical. It was experiential, because it's not a theoretical thing. And I think that's what people might get hung up on. Is this is what you do? This is what seniors need. This is what we're going to do. No, I mean, yeah, it may be. But if you're not doing it and living it and breathing it and experiencing yourself, it's not going to make it. And so that, to me, the people, oh my goodness, the friends I made and the people.
And finding the computer
Yeah.
teacher and finding the
that maybe that's part of it. You have to connect with the people.
Yeah, that's really critical.
You have to be one of them. And no, I am one. I could be a member.
No, I want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would you like to see in the future for People Program?
I would just like to see, number one, that it continues. That it's so there's a place always that people can go to learn something new that they've always wanted to do. And that there's a staff there that cares about them. And like, for example, Joyce used to do, if somebody wouldn't show up,
She call them.
she would call them, and then she would just go to their house. And sometimes she found things she didn't want to see. So we could be able to direct them to other places. So, you know,
They weren't just a name on our roster. They were friends, and if we didn't hear from them, Joyce was really good about that.
she
And that's
was
why I say
wonderful
after the
about that.
storm because we couldn't reach people by phone, I would drive to their homes just to see, if there was anything to tell me about them, because we wanted them to feel like they could call us for anything, and they did if they got into a situation or they needed something, or if they needed us. But by then they probably had made this huge network of super close friends already in their classes that they didn't really need the staff so much, but they knew you were there for them. And it wasn't superficial and it wasn't theoretical. And I think that's what I hope it continues, that it's people first. And something this is just crazy, because I arrived in New Orleans a couple of weeks ago, and the very first day I arrived, I had lunch with a really good friend, and she sits down beside me, and she says, "Oh, Ellen's going. Guess what Ellen's doing?" I'm like, "I don't know. What's Ellen doing?" "She's retired." "Yes." "She's going to the People Program. She thinks it's the best thing since sliced bread." And she said, she's telling me all about it. "Oh, do you know about the People?" She says, "Do I know about the People Program?" She says, "Mary Catherine works at the People Program." And so she's like telling me this. Well, I mean, I was just like beaming, because I hadn't been here in so long. And to hear people that you know from your neighborhood that you spent 25 years being with, who are now retired and have time and go, it was great, and they said they absolutely love going to the program. So that to me was, I could read about it, you could tell me about it, but hearing people that I know say what they're getting from it was like all I needed to know, that it's going to survive. And so what I wish, that it keeps surviving. That's exactly, I couldn't say anything different from Barbara, that it just continues. That's what I always wished, is it continues. And I still call it my program. I mean, when I'm talking about it to people, I say my program, I mean the people program. I still say that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, to everyone.
Because it is yours. You know, you feel like you own it.
It was, I remember you said it was your child.
Did I say it was
Yeah,
my
you used to say you gave birth to the program, and I said, well, I adopted it because it did feel like that. It's like an extension of. I mean, there was nothing. A day didn't go by, I didn't think about it. And then when I left, I still thought about it a lot, and I come back every year and have lunch with all the old friends from there, yeah, and see people. But to me, it's just it permeated me. It was the best job I ever had. It fulfilled me. And it's like it was, I don't know, it's something, and that's how it has to be, I think. That it has to be really
loved.
in your heart and soul. And if it is, then it's going to survive. Yeah, and I think that's, especially when you're looking for grant writers and program directors and people that are going to run it who don't know about it, you know, have to learn about it.
Yeah.
That I think
Yes.
that's the biggest challenge, is that you know, I mean, Laverne was great because she was already a member and she loved it, and so she was a natural, and people had to understand it, to own it, and when you own it, you take responsibility for it, and hell or high water is not going to stop it,
Yeah.
and that's what I think you need for.
There you go.
To
I
work.
think she said it all.
I agree, and I think that's where we'll leave it. Barbara, Mary Catherine, thank you so much for this afternoon. It's been wonderful to hear your love and your passion for a group that I too love and have a passion for.
It's a privilege to me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
Yeah, for doing this,
doing this
Yeah.
so that
keeping it alive.
Yeah.